September 30th is the referendum, and before I go into any particulars, I have to tell you that it's really a critical time for our district. We have a very small window for things to get done, and this referendum, as you see, when we go through it, it's critical with the facilities. It's pretty much a facility referendum, but there also are some implications, obviously, for the education part, and that's really, the part I'm very interested in. But it's a small window of things that we can get done, because the question's going to be here, really, it's not an if question. If these things have to be done, they have to be done. The question is not if, but when do we get it done? And the when will determine how much we're going to pay for this. This small window here, and as I go through it, the state, because we've targeted just the critical areas, the state will be kicking in 40% of the cost. And after, when you figure in the energy savings and so forth, we're going to get approximately a $15 million project done for about a local share of about $3.7, $3.8 million if we act now. And the problem, of course, is if we don't act now, those things are going to have to be done anyway, but it then all falls on the taxpayers themselves. And when that happens, something it's going to obviously impact our education, because when we have to take money out of the budget for air conditioning and roofing, it has to come from other areas, which would be staffing, programs, and educational programs, and that's where it really affects the education part. So, all right, there are a couple areas that this referendum is going to address. It's basically the facility part, and the first part of it comes out is roofing repairs and replacement. If you look through in our areas, and again, the key part here is that when Craig started looking at the areas, these are all critical areas that have to be addressed. So that's the ones that are getting the funding. The state takes a look at some of the projects, and you put in for funding from the state. The state only awards the funding if they're critical areas, things that are needed. So when you go things like, obviously, roofing repairs and replacement, that's a critical area that has to be done. Now, over the years, we have been kind of piecing it together. We've been kind of patching the roofs and so forth. But there gets the point, and if anybody like you, like me, have had an old car that you just keep putting money into it, and after you look through the year, you put $1,000 in it this year, and eventually it finally dawns on you that all that money that you're putting in for repairs, you could have probably replaced it and then saved the money on that part of it. That's where we are right now. It's actually the repairs and the running of some of this equipment is costing more than it would be to replace some of these things. So you really have to take the opportunity now, because of the funding, to be able to take advantage of what the state is offering, which is really 40% plus the energy savings that you're going to get. Our roofs and repairs at every school in the district will get some kind of repairs. Here, it's the high school, the middle school, MTS, and Whiting. Ridgeway did get a roof previously, so their roof is in pretty good shape, but those other 4 schools are really in need of repair, and you're going to see, I think, a picture back and forth here if that comes up. Next is security and safety upgrades. We have already started some of that, and as you know, we're trying to put a little in every year. If you notice, the Ridgeway parents, we have a vestibule there in Ridgeway now. That was our next step. And right now we're trying to do it piece by piece. And we can do that. It'll take a number of years to get all of the schools done that way. But this is an opportunity, again, to get 40% of this pay. And we're looking at a vestibule here, and you can see when we talk about the security part of it, I work very closely with the chief of police. He's outstanding. He comes and visits the schools. One of the key areas that he thought we needed to address a while back, and that's the move in all the schools, is to put buffer areas. In other words, have a different layer of security. So if you notice, if you're in Whiting or if you're in Ridgeway now, you'll get buzzed in the first set of doors, and then you'll be into kind of a vestibule where you still don't have access to the entire building. And really, that's really what you want. When you get buzzed in, you should only be able to go to the main office, and that's kind of where we funneled it. And that was obviously on his direction. So right now we'll have 2 schools. Our goal is to get all of the schools with the vestibule, so they'll all be in the same situation. There's also some money in there for interior and exterior cameras. Again, we do that a little at a time, And again, security-wise, it's a part of your regular budget now. But anything that we can get, obviously 40% of, that allows us to allocate more money toward the educational programs. HVAC, I don't know if you can see some of those HVACs. They might be a little bit older than I am. They're not in great shape, but old rooftop units and boilers. And when you talk about, you know, and sometimes when you talk maybe to some senior citizens where we talk about air conditioning in schools and so forth, they have a little different connotation because they think, oh, we didn't have air conditioning in schools when I went to school. Well, the problem is the way the schools are built now, they're very airtight, and without the air conditioning to modify the moisture in it, you will get that, and I hesitate to use the M word, but the M word that hit the middle school 2 years ago. That's the mold situation. And it's been prevalent around a number of schools. We got hit very hard, and a lot of it was attributed, some of it was attributed to a power surge, but the other part of it was our equipment never recovered from that. So we ended up, as you know, middle school students, 2 months into high school. We lost 2 months of instruction in the middle school, and we luckily, because our students and our parents and our staff are very flexible, we made it through. But that's not a situation you want to see. Really, in addition to the education part, the safety and the security and creating an atmosphere that's conducive to learning. And again, we see a lot of students who are highly allergic to things. You get any types of mold or any types of moisture in the air, it becomes difficult. The air conditioning, that's what modulates that, and we have units here that are not able to make that exchange. So that's really what it's not really a luxury item, air conditioning. It's something that it's really needed in all of our schools. And we have it, but some of the units need to be obviously replaced or modified. Some units are over 30 years old, which is like a couple of years older than I am. Increase energy efficient. Obviously, when you're replacing some of these units, you're going to get a buyback, and it's much more efficient. I mean, I know you remember the big TVs or the big things that used up a lot of power, very big. We made some changes over in Whiting where we took our boiler system and shrunk it down to about this big, and obviously much more efficient. The money that you'll be saving over the time is really going to be substantial. So it's like when you replace windows in your house. Obviously, it's an upfront cost, but you get back that savings because it becomes an airtight, and you don't lose the heat or the air conditioning on it. A lot of the other things that we're doing is the lighting. We did a number of things. I think we did the gyms 2 years ago, I guess. And you notice the gym lighting is obviously much more efficient. You don't have to turn the light on and 20 minutes later the light comes on type of thing. It's pretty much in and out inside, but they're obviously so much more efficient than they were, and we've saved money just on replacing those lights in the gym. Right now, we're going to be able to secure about $6.2 million in state-approved grants. And the reason why I just want to end on this one, because Craig basically has structured this referendum to be just areas that are able to qualify for the 40%. There's nothing else in there that doesn't qualify. Just strictly critical things that are eligible for the 40%, and that's really, you know, why we get such a bang for our buck in this part of it, is because they're critical needs and they're going to have to be replaced, and these things are going to have to be addressed. But the window is very short, and when we say the state gives us 40% back, that's nice, but if you look through and follow the sequence, the state has this money because everybody in the state, taxpayers, have contributed to this fund. And they took money from that and allocated to the school. A lot of this, or some of this money, is Manchester Township tax dollars, which is going to come back to our district in this. If we don't get if we vote no, or it doesn't come to us, then another district who they already have a waiting list of people that are qualified will then be eligible for that. Be eligible for that funding. So again, this is money that's coming back to us, money that taxpayers have put in, but it's earmarked for education and earmarked for only critical items, and this is really the area.
As Dave kind of alluded to earlier, why we're doing this now, why this is the best time, is because of the funding that's out there. The $6.2 million in funding, and there'll be something a little bit later where we'll show you about the energy savings. what we're going to be able to do is minimize the impact to the local taxpayer, because as Dave said, these are things that we have to do. Right now, we're getting $6.2 million from the state, and the energy savings is estimated to be about $5.6 million over the life of the bond. So getting $15 million worth of work for about $3.7 million is why we're looking at this now. Again, like we discussed, we're doing this now because we want to try to take advantage of this 40% funding. If the referendum does not pass, we do not get the funding. We were approved for this funding back in December of 13, December of 13. So we have 18 months from that time to secure local funding. So if we don't do that in that time frame, this money goes to somebody else. And that's, this should go over some other things. So here's some of the information we were talking about. Right now we have 40% funding that's been approved, just under $6.2 million for the project. These are your tax dollars. This is money you guys have put in with your state income taxes and those types of things, real estate taxes that could bring that money back to Manchester. Again, if the referendum does not pass, this money could go to another school district, and then the local taxpayer will have to pick up 100% of the tab, because, again, like Dave said, we are at the point now, just like, if you have a home, every year you're continually maintaining your house, whether it's painting, carpeting, flooring, landscaping, those types of things. But at some point, there's only so many roofs you can put on your house before they have to rip the roof off and put a new roof down. Or you'll notice your air conditioning maybe isn't as cool as it used to be, and they've come out and they've added Freon or anything else, and it's just not working efficiently anymore. You notice that your utility bills might be increasing, because of equipment being inefficient. That's why we have to do these things. So if this referendum does not pass, we would never be able to do it all at once, because we have budget cap, we have a 2% budget cap. We obviously have instruction and curriculum and all those types of things to worry about, programs for the students. So it would take a much longer process, but we would not get this funding, so the taxpayer would foot 100% of the bill. So here's what we were talking about before. Right now we have $6.2 million of state funding that's been authorized for us. We had an energy audit done district-wide a few years ago. And part of the reason we did that was that it was free. There was no cost to the district to do it. The state was pushing programs to have these energy audits done so that school districts could implement some of these recommendations and save some money on their energy. What we did was, when we went back and we had that energy audit, they projected at that time that the district could potentially save around $6 million if we implemented some of these things that they recommended. Now, obviously, with the things that they were recommending, we can't do them all out of our budget. We might have been able to do one thing here, one thing there, but to experience this much savings, which it roughly translates to about $320,000 a year, we need something like this referendum. Otherwise, like I said, you'll never experience the full benefit of having the energy audit done. And then we also had it certified by an independent third party just to confirm that the numbers that we got from the energy audit were accurate, and that's what they came up with. So like we said earlier, this project is about $15.5 million in total. If you factor in the $6.2 million and the $5.6 million in energy savings, we're probably looking at $3.7 million to the local taxpayer. Just to give you an idea, and again, this kind of ties into what we were talking about before, we currently spend anywhere between $250,000 to $400,000 a year just to maintain our existing HVAC equipment, do roof repairs and those types of things. This is, and again, and if you saw the pictures before, the average age of our HVAC equipment in this district is probably about 25 years. So we have some of them that we have original equipment at the high school that was built in 1972. Obviously, as things age and they get older, they can become less efficient. Now we're at the point in some of our locations where we can't even get parts for these machines, where we have to have them special manufactured. They're obviously nowhere near as efficient as new equipment would be. And ideally, what we would like to do is, rather than spend this kind of money to maintain old equipment, old roofs, inefficient equipment, take that money and repurpose it towards paying down the new equipment and experiencing that energy savings that we were talking about. Again, this is what we were talking about, the energy savings, $5.6 million over the life of the bonds. Again, we talked about that a little bit. We had an energy audit conducting third-party review of the audit results. Here's the other reason. The last time we did a referendum was back in 2009, 5 years ago. At the time, interest rates and construction rates were extremely low. It was extremely competitive, and that was a good time to do a referendum. Well, interest rates are still extremely low. Construction rates are still extremely low. So when you add on the state funding, the energy savings, and the fact that we still have a very good, we still have a very good chance of achieving this project for less than the $15 million because interest rates and construction rates are low, now is the best time for us to go out and try to do this. This is what the tax impact is as of now. When you factor in the project cost, the energy savings, the state funding, we're probably looking at about $1 per month on $100,000 of assessed value. So if you have a home that's assessed at $200,000, it's $2 a month. $300,000, it's $3 a month. So obviously, we're looking to get a lot of work done for as minimal of an impact as we can. And I think what we've put together, and like Dave said, there's nothing really cosmetic in this. We did a lot of the cosmetic stuff in the last referendum. We did a lot of flooring and windows and those types of things. This is basically just trying to replace things that are inefficient, leaking roofs and those types of things. And it's at a fairly reasonable cost. I want to thank everybody for your time. Obviously, the vote is on September 30th. Polls are open from 2:30 to 9 o'clock. Well, this is basically just a recap of some of the things we talked about. Again, why now? $6.2 million in state funding, $5.6 million in energy savings, $15.5 million worth of work for $3.7 million. These are critical needs. If we cannot do these now, they still need to be done. It'll just take longer. It'll be a longer process, but 100% of that cost will fall on the local taxpayer. So, I think we will be at all the back to school nights. We will be doing a presentation at our board meeting next week as well. This information will be on the website, the flyer, and the PowerPoint will be up there. We just ask that you come out and vote on September 30th.
The key part really is, and I can't overemphasize, people may have a tendency to look, oh, this doesn't really affect education. This really does affect the education part. And if we're not able to take advantage of this funding now, as Craig said, we're going to have to pull this out of some kind of education, staffing program down the road, because obviously the roofs have to be repaired, the heating and air conditioning has to be repaired. Those things have to be done. And again, this is a perfect time. I don't want to say perfect storm because that's not the right word, but it's a perfect time to take advantage of this. And really, the parents are the ones who really have the students in the school and know the situations, know the conditions, and hopefully you know how important it is. So I want to thank you. I will open